Okay, let's start with something bold this time. For more than a century, we have been told that humans evolved from apes, that life somehow began from a random spark in a prehistoric soup, and gradually climbed the ladder of complexity, forming eyes, brains, and consciousness. But here is the uncomfortable truth. Not a single piece of direct, complete fossil evidence has ever proven that one species transformed into another. Not even one. That's the point we will center everything around. The missing link isn't missing. It never existed. Evolution isn't a fact of science. It's a theory desperately held up by assumptions, fragments, and blind interpretations. Science runs on observation and replication. You can test gravity, you can test electricity, you can repeat chemical reactions in a lab, but you cannot recreate evolution, can you? You cannot make one species evolve into another under controlled conditions. Not in millions of experiments, not once. Even Darwin admitted this. In The Origin of Species, he wrote, the fossil fuel record should show innumerable transitional forms. Yet he also confessed they weren't there. Over 160 years later, we are still searching. What have we found? Just fragments, not proofs. Pieces of bone stitched into stories. Remember the Piltdown man, once held as the missing link between apes and humans, later exposed as a fraud? A human skill combined with an organton's jaw, or the Nebraska man, an entire image of a prehistoric man built from a single tooth which turned out to belong to a wild pig. Laughable. And then there's Lucy, the famous Australopithecus afarensis, long claimed to be our ancestor. The name is very complex though. Modern reanalysis showed she was a knuckle-walking ape, not a step in human evolution. If evolution were true, the earth should be overflowing with transitional creatures, half fish, half reptile, half bird. Yet they are nowhere to be found. Not in fossils, not in nature, not in laboratories. Because species do not evolve, they adapt. And adaptation is real, observable, and measurable. A moth changing its color to blend into its surroundings, a finch's beak slightly altering in size. Yes, these are just those micro adjustments within the same species, but not evolution. No fish ever grew lungs and walked on land. No monkey ever turned into a man. And that brings us to the real story. This isn't a denial of science. It's a correction of a misunderstanding that has lasted for over more than a century. Evolution wasn't discovered. It was constructed, born out of limited data and kept alive not by evidence but by ideology. Now let's talk science, not imagination. Because when you strip away the slogans and look at the raw data, evolution collapses under its own weight. Start with DNA, the most complex information code known to humanity. Every cell in your body carries a digital instruction set made up of over 3 billion letters. The order of these letters decides whether you are a human or a horse or an eagle or an elephant. The slightest error can cause disease, deformity, or death. So the question is simple. How can a random mutation, an accidental typo, create more order, more complexity, and more intelligence? In all modern genetics, no experiment has ever shown random mutations producing a brand new functional system. Of course, mutations can damage information or slightly modify existing traits, but they do not create new organs, do they? You can mutate bacteria for thousands of generations and they still remain bacteria. That's microchange, not evolution. Even the late Francis Crick, co-discoverer of DNA and a committed evolutionist himself, admitted that the origin of such a complex code seems almost a miracle. He proposed the idea of directed panspermia, that life might have been seeded on Earth by aliens, not because it made sense, but because Darwin's mechanism couldn't explain it. So here you go, brother. If evolution has so many gaps, then why do they still stick to it? That's because it's not a theory, it's a belief system, a way to say no to religion. The answer isn't found in science, it's rooted in ideology. Even today, evolution serves the same function. It keeps the world materialistic. Because if life is just a chemical accident, there has to be, and there is no higher purpose to live for, no soul to protect, and no creator to answer to. The system thrives on the emptiness. When people stop believing they are created for something greater, they become consumers instead of thinkers. Pure capitalism at work. This wasn't science, it was social engineering in disguise. Darwin's theory, which began as a study of finches and fossils, was later twisted into a moral justification for empire and inequality. Let's think about it this way. British colonial officers used survival of the fittest to rationalize ruling over India and Africa, claiming Europeans were biologically superior. In America, industrialists like Rockefeller and Carnegie turned the same idea into a business creed. The rich deserved to be rich because they were the fittest, while the poor were naturally unfit. Even Nazi Germany later borrowed this logic to create its racial hierarchies. The tragedy is that most of these people never even read on the origin of species closely enough to realize that Darwin himself admitted his doubts, writing that the complexity of the human eye made him shudder at his very own theory.